second to last week of session. Obviously, the clock's winding down at this point. We spent some valuable time talking about personhood this week, and still not talking about how we're going to fix our roads, highways, and bridges, and a variety of other things that I think we could have done either a while ago or not done at all that are less important than Medicaid expansion or some of those issues. So we'll see what happens this last week of session, but I think we've got a pretty good indicator of what the priorities of the majority party are.
No, nothing to add to that.
What do you think the motivation is for pushing these gun bills, for the abortion bills?
I don't think we can speculate on what the motivation is. Again, this floor time is taxpayer time and it's valuable time. And the fact that the majority party has decided to spend this incredibly valuable time on the taxpayer's dollar to talk about guns and abortion instead of the things that moves Missouri forward. Infrastructure, addressing our K through 12 transfer problems, expanding health care to those that need it. Again, it's a matter of priorities, and obviously it shows that priorities of helping Missourians really isn't in the mix.
What do you think the chances are of the transportation fuel tax actually getting across the finish line?
Oh, I think highly doubtful at this point. I mean, you're going into the last week of session. I can't imagine that the House and Senate would agree right now on an exact way to do it. So at that point, even if we got a bill across, you'd have to figure it out in the Senate and go to conference and everything else. At this point, it's just a matter of time. But I still don't, I mean, we still haven't even debated a proposal really on the House floor at all. So to do it in the last week would be, I find it highly unlikely at this point.
Instead, we've spent time debating things like naming rights for highways, and that'll be interesting. Again, how many thousands of dollars do the taxpayers have to spend to defend for a decade's worth of litigation when the KKK wants to come and name its own highway? We're talking about memorial highways, and today we spent some time naming bridges after folks that have passed away. Well, I hope that those bridges are managed to stay alive and stay awake for a while because they're not being maintained.
Ethics has been noted as a priority from the start of the session. I guess, how are you feeling about the ethics that have progressed and what remains on the
Well,
table?
I think the ethics bills that are done are what we're going to see this year, and I think that even though it's a small step, it's not even close to what the voters expect. When you're looking at $250,000, $500,000, even up to $1 million campaign contributions going into people's campaign committees, it's just absurd, and that takes the voice away from the people that are out there working every single day, trying to give $10 here, $20 here. Their voices are completely drowned out in the political process when a millionaire or billionaire or multiple millionaires and billionaires decide to tip the scale. And it just seems to me the Republicans like keeping their thumb on the scale.
Do you think there's a ballot initiative that's coming up regarding campaign financing in reaction to that?
Well, I saw that today. I'd have to look at more of the details, but I mean, it's got to be better than unlimited. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at right now is unlimited on gifts and unlimited on campaign contributions. So, I mean, if it moves better than unlimited, it's probably a good proposal at this point. But I'd still like to look through it before I made a definitive statement. But it's got to be better than what we have now at this point, I would imagine.
Am I understanding you to say you don't think the gift ban will pass?
I don't believe so, no. I think honestly what we have in the ethics bills right now is what you're going to see this session. I think, I mean, it obviously all depends on how next week plays out, but I think what they've done is what they're going to do, and even though some of it is a good step, it's a small step. So.
Have you been following the current iteration of that and what the Senate has done to amend the limit for the gifts by any chance?
What do you mean in regards to?
Well, the Senate had made a change to what the limits were for gifts. I was just wondering if that
You know, we've had times in the past where we've gotten to conference committee reports, and it seems like this is a volleyball back and forth, and we've never actually seen anything that has been a finalized thing. Honestly, it seems to me like it's political theater. The majority party wants to pretend as if they really are actually giving an honest effort on doing it, and at the end of the day, it just seems every year it just happens to die. So as soon as they get to a conference committee report and we actually see something hard that they're going to do, I think it's political theater at this point. They're trying to pacify people to pretend that they're working on it when in actuality they're just trying to run the clock out on it, in my opinion.
And the things that are still outstanding, the things that are still moving out there, I mean, for example, I know you'd like to see Medicaid expansion passed, but realistically, probably won't happen in the last week, but of the bills that are out there and the things that are moving, are there things that you do want to see get across the finish line, or are there, or maybe a priority that you don't want to see get across the finish line? What kind of stands out in this last week?
Again, I would go back to the ethics bills. I was on those committees. We got those out of the House, I think, in the second week. They've been sitting over in the Senate all this time. Out of, I believe, the 5 bills we sent over, only 2 have made it to the governor's desk. So if there's one thing that I would like to see cross the finish line, or maybe 3, that would be it. The voters made it very clear. They want campaign finance limits, and they want lobbyist gift reform. And the fact that we're not even really talking about that is a problem for me. On the flip side, again, you know, legislative time is about priorities, just like the budget is about priorities. And what we're seeing in this last couple of weeks, and what I expect to see next week, is not prioritizing the things that are important to Missourians, which are infrastructure, job creation, finding health care, children's hunger. I mean, we're in the top 10 for childhood hunger, and I don't see anything coming up the pass that's going to address those very important and crucial issues to working families in Missouri.
Well, and I also definitely want to add, we'd love to see paycheck deception die in the Senate. It was unfortunate that it made it out of the House this week with an override of the governor's veto. I think the Senate's probably gonna slow down a lot next week, maybe even come to a screeching halt. But we've seen continually, now the second year in a row, that they like to finish by attacking working families. And then they all wanna wonder why their bills don't pass. And it's really self-inflicted. So we hope to see the paycheck fall short, and that we can actually have the Senate work as they should in the last week of session, like they haven't in the last year, and maybe not this year.
We received, just real quickly, we received a notice about a food drive that's going on this week. Do you mind just briefly talking about that and how it's progressing, or a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so the Minority Leader's Office, who, by the way, is out because he had his baby last weekend, so we're just filling in, but the Minority Leader's Office has decided to do a hunger food drive, and we are taking donations from now until the end of session, and at that point, we're going to donate them to a food bank, as well as financial donations. If people don't want to go to the grocery store, they can drop a check by or whatever and just bring it by the Minority Leader's Office. And it's really in response to the 6,000 kids that were thrown off kind of assistance last year with Diane Franklin's bill. And we are, like the Representative Mitten said, we're in the top 10 for hunger in the entire country. And it's forming a committee, which is what their answer was this year, is, in my opinion, insulting. They know exactly why we're in this situation, and we're in this situation because they continue to make decisions to not give people assistance that are in need in poverty situations. And now they want to pretend as if we're going to form a committee to see what the issue is. Well, I could have saved the taxpayers, I believe it was $300,000 to actually do the committee and tell them why. So, and I think many of people on our side, I know Representative Mitten did, and myself, told them why. But
Ask any food bank, food pantry if they're seeing an uptick since those benefits stopped in January, and they will tell you absolutely.